won't save you. We're opening the doors to a world where darkness doesn't just blind, it consumes the soul. Here, in the darkest corners of the night, even your breath can become a harbinger of nightmares. Question everything you knew about safety and comfort. Are you prepared to hear eerie whispers from nowhere invade your mind and torment every thought? Leave your fears at the door, because what we show you will make them burst forth. Are you ready to journey into the dark corners, where every sound and shadow harbors an unknown danger? Sit tight and brace yourself, for the night is just beginning, and its horror could become your eternal companion. It's time to step into a world with no way back, where darkness will be your only guide.
Detective Harper woke up each morning to the sound of birds chirping outside his window. The small town of Maplewood was known for its picturesque streets lined with maple trees and cozy homes. Every day began with the same routine. He would brew a cup of coffee strong enough to cut through the fog of sleep. After a quick shower and a glance at the weather report, he would dress in his usual attire, a well-worn jacket and comfortable shoes. Harper enjoyed the familiarity of the town. He often took the same route to the precinct, passing by the bakery where the scent of fresh bread hung in the air. The townspeople greeted him with warm smiles as he nodded in return. Once at work, his desk was cluttered with case files and a half-eaten donut. Harper spent hours sifting through reports, chatting with colleagues, and attending briefings. He often found himself investigating minor incidents that seemed trivial, a missing child's pet, or a dispute over a property line. Nothing ever seemed out of the ordinary. The biggest excitement came from the annual Maplewood Fair, where residents gathered to celebrate their community. However, as the sun began to set, a subtle shift would occur. The shadows lengthened, and the once vibrant colors of the day faded into muted tones. Harper sometimes felt a chill sweep through the precinct, despite the warm summer air. On particularly quiet evenings, he would catch a glimpse of something darting just beyond the corner of his eye, a fleeting shadow that sent a momentary shiver down his spine. He brushed it off as a trick of the light, but couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss beneath the surface of his seemingly normal life. It began with a report that landed on Detective Harper's desk one brisk autumn morning. A local woman named Clara Thompson had gone missing. She was a beloved member of the community, known for her bright smile and kind heart. Clara was last seen walking her dog near the edge of Maplewood's dense woods. The dog returned home without her. Panic began to ripple through the town as friends and family frantically searched for her. Harper reviewed the details of the case. Clara had left home around dusk. Her husband reported that she often took the same path through the woods, yet something felt off. Witnesses claimed they had seen her that evening, but their accounts varied significantly. One said she was wearing a red jacket, another insisted it was blue. These small discrepancies gnawed at Harper. Why were there so many conflicting stories about a woman who had been well known in the community? As he delved deeper into the investigation, Harper visited the area where Clara had disappeared. The woods loomed ominously, filled with towering trees that seemed to whisper secrets. The air was thick with an unsettling silence. He noticed strange markings on a nearby tree, symbols that looked like they had been carved long ago. They sent a cold shiver down his spine, an inexplicable dread settling in the pit of his stomach. Harper's instincts screamed that something was wrong. He interviewed Clara's friends and neighbors, searching for any clues that could lead him to her. Each conversation revealed unsettling patterns, little hints that suggested Clara had been involved in something far more sinister. A former friend mentioned a gathering in the woods, a strange ritual that had taken place just days before Clara's disappearance. The deeper Harper dug, the more he felt an unseen force shadowing him, as if the very air in Maplewood had thickened with an ancient malevolence. He could not shake the feeling that he was on the precipice of uncovering something dark and unfathomable. The morning sun barely broke through the overcast sky as Detective Harper received the call. A body had been discovered in the woods, not far from where Clara Thompson had vanished. With dread weighing heavily on his chest, he rushed to the scene. The air was thick with tension, and an unsettling quiet enveloped the area. As he approached the site, the stench of decay assaulted his senses. The first glimpse of the victim was a jarring shock. Clara's body lay sprawled on the ground, contorted into a twisted and unnatural pose. Her arms were bent at odd angles, as if she had been wrenched from some macabre puppet show. Blood pooled around her, soaking into the earth and staining the leaves a deep crimson. Harper's stomach churned. He forced himself to step closer, his gaze locking onto the mutilations that marred her once vibrant form. Her skin bore deep gashes, meticulously carved as if by a skilled hand. Symbols, foreign and grotesque, adorned her body, glistening with fresh blood. Each mark told a story of pain and horror, hinting at a ritualistic nature that made Harper's skin crawl. The brutality of it all was suffocating. As the forensic team began their work, Harper struggled to maintain his composure. The sight of his friend, now a lifeless marionette in a grim tableau, was more than he could bear. He fought against the rising tide of nausea and anger. Who could do this? What kind of monster lurked in Maplewood? The town he had known and loved had transformed into a nightmare. Whispers of the ancient markings he had seen earlier echoed in his mind. Were they connected? He felt a dark thread weaving through the fabric of the community, one that could lead him to the very heart of the evil that had claimed Clara. But with each revelation, the shadows grew longer, and he couldn't shake the feeling that the darkness was closing in on him. As he stood at the center of the crime scene, a chilling realization struck him. This was only the beginning. Days turned into a blur for Detective Harper as he grappled with the horror of Clara's death. The town of Maplewood, once a sanctuary, was now steeped in fear and paranoia. People exchanged nervous glances, doors were locked earlier, and conversations hushed at the mention of Clara's name. Each passing day brought more troubling news. Reports of additional disappearances surfaced, each case echoing the unsettling patterns of the last. A local teenager vanished, followed by an elderly man known for his nightly walks. The pattern was unmistakable, and with each new victim, the weight of dread pressed heavier upon Harper's shoulders. In his relentless pursuit of answers, Harper immersed himself in research. He frequented the town library, poring over dusty tomes and ancient texts that hinted at local folklore and rituals. He discovered mentions of a cult that once thrived in the shadows of Maplewood, worshipping entities that demanded blood and sacrifice. The more he uncovered, the clearer the connection between these ancient practices and the string of grisly murders became. The symbols he had seen carved into Clara's body echoed through the pages of forgotten history, a dark tapestry woven into the very foundation of the town. As Harper delved deeper, he began to notice the growing unease among his friends. Conversations felt strained, and casual gatherings grew infrequent. He caught fleeting looks of guilt and fear exchanged between them, subtle hints that gnawed at his instincts. Could they be involved? The thought was unbearable, yet the evidence mounted like an insurmountable wall. Secrets whispered in shadows began to unravel, each thread pulling him further into a web of betrayal. With each new victim, the town's atmosphere thickened with suspicion. Neighbors turned against each other, and whispers of paranoia danced through the streets. The once vibrant Maplewood now felt like a ghost town, haunted by the specter of an unseen terror. Harper's determination grew alongside his fear. He knew he had to confront the darkness head-on, but the truth lingered just out of reach, elusive and maddening as he fought against the encroaching shadows. As Detective Harper delved deeper into the investigation, he stumbled upon whispers of a clandestine cult operating within the town. A sense of urgency gripped him as he pieced together the clues, leading him to an abandoned barn on the outskirts of Maplewood. The air was thick with anticipation as he approached, the fading light casting eerie shadows across the weathered wood. Harper's heart raced as he prepared to infiltrate their secret meetings, determined to uncover the truth behind the gruesome murders. Under the cover of darkness, Harper slipped inside the barn, his senses heightened. The flickering glow of candles illuminated a circle of hooded figures, their voices low and rhythmic as they chanted in a language he could not comprehend. The atmosphere was charged with a palpable energy, a mix of reverence and dread. As he crept closer, he caught sight of a crude altar adorned with offerings, animal bones, wilted flowers, and the unmistakable remnants of blood. It became clear that this was no ordinary gathering. They were invoking the name of an ancient entity that demanded sacrifices. The cult's leader stood at the center, a figure draped in dark robes, their voice rising above the chanting. "We honor the one who dwells in the shadows," they proclaimed. "To appease the hunger, we must offer the purest among us." Harper's blood ran cold as he realized the implications of their words. The entity they worshipped was not just a myth, it was a living, breathing horror that thrived on the lives of the innocent. As the ritual progressed, Harper felt a chill creep up his spine. He witnessed the cultists prepare for a sacrifice, their faces twisted with fanaticism as they revealed a bound figure, someone from the town. The realization struck him like a lightning bolt. The cult's influence had seeped into every corner of Maplewood, ensnaring those he once called friends. Panic surged within him as he fought against the urge to intervene. The cult's grip was tightening, and he knew that time was running out. Each moment spent in their presence drew him deeper into their twisted world, where morality and humanity were mere whispers drowned by the call of the dark entity they served. Detective Harper stood frozen in the dim light of the barn, the weight of the world crashing down on him as he faced the horrifying reality that his closest friends were entangled in this web of darkness. The chanting echoed in his ears, drowning out the steady thrum of his heartbeat. Each word, foreign and sinister, twisted the knife deeper into his gut. Betrayal washed over him like icy water, leaving him gasping for breath. He had trusted them, shared laughter and secrets, yet here they were, draped in shadows, part of a cult that demanded blood. As the ritual unfolded before him, he felt the ground beneath his feet shift. Anger surged through him, battling against disbelief and sorrow. How could they? The friends he had shared countless memories with now stood as willing participants in horrifying acts. The leader's voice resonated, calling for the purest among them to be offered, and he felt a gut-wrenching fear for the person bound on the altar. Was it one of them? His mind raced, piecing together bits of conversations and glances that now took on a sinister meaning. Summoning every ounce of courage, Harper stepped forward, confronting the figures cloaked in darkness. The air crackled with tension as their chanting faltered, eyes turning towards him with a mix of surprise and apprehension. "What have you done?" he demanded, his voice trembling with rage and betrayal. Their expressions morphed from shock to defiance, revealing the depth of their involvement. One of them, his childhood friend Jacob, stepped forward, eyes wild with fervor. "We are doing what must be done. The entity demands sacrifice. You wouldn't understand." Harper's heart broke at the sight of his friend, lost in fanaticism. "This isn't right. You're killing innocent people." The words felt foreign on his tongue, yet they were the truth. Jacob's face twisted in anger, and he spat back. "You call it murder. We call it salvation. You failed to see the truth, Harper. This is our way to protect the town from a fate worse than death." The confrontation spiraled into chaos, emotions clashing like thunder. Harper's mind raced as he grappled with the realization that he was standing against the very people he once held dear. Each revelation felt like shards of glass tearing at his heart. He was faced with an impossible choice to save his friends or to save the town from the horrors they had unleashed. In that moment, the shadows around him deepened, and he felt the suffocating weight of despair settle in, knowing that the battle was not only external, but a war within his soul. The barn trembled as the chanting reached a fever pitch. Detective Harper's heart raced, echoing the drums of the cultists as they invoked the name of the ancient entity. The air thickened with an otherworldly presence that chilled him to the bone. He stepped forward, fists clenched, ready to confront not just his friends, but the malevolent force that had claimed their souls. The flickering candlelight cast grotesque shadows on the walls, revealing the true form of the entity, a monstrous amalgamation of writhing limbs and eyes that glowed with a malevolent hunger. It hovered above the altar, a mass of darkness that defied logic. Fleshy tendrils snaked through the air, pulsating with a life of their own. Each breath Harper took seemed to draw the entity closer, as if it thrived on his fear. The cultists fell silent, their faces pale as they gazed upon the horror they had summoned. A low growl emanated from the creature, vibrating through the ground and rattling Harper's bones. "Foolish mortal," it hissed, its voice a cacophony of whispers that wormed into his mind. "You dare oppose the will of the Ancient One? Your friends have offered themselves to me, and you will join them in darkness." The words slithered into his thoughts, taunting him with visions of despair and chaos. Harper felt the weight of betrayal and fear coiling around his heart. He lunged forward, adrenaline fueling his movements as he fought against the tide of despair. "No! You will not take them! I will not let you destroy this town!" He could feel the presence of the cultists behind him, their energy shifting as they wavered between loyalty to their leader and the reality of the horror they had unleashed. The entity roared, a sound that reverberated through the barn, shaking the very foundation of his resolve. Tendrils lashed out, striking at Harper with a speed that left him little room to react. He dodged, feeling the rush of air as they whipped past him, tearing into the wooden beams with a sickening crunch. The cultists screamed, some falling to their knees, while others stood frozen, paralyzed by the terror of their creation. "Embrace your fate," the entity hissed, its eyes narrowing as it focused on Harper, a glimmer of hunger igniting within its depths. He felt the pull of despair, a dark invitation to surrender. Yet amidst the chaos, flickers of hope ignited within him. Harper called upon every ounce of strength, rallying against the overwhelming darkness. He would not succumb, not now, not ever. The chaos of the confrontation faded, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. Detective Harper stood amidst the remnants of the ritual, the air thick with the scent of burnt candles and fear. The cult members lay scattered, some unconscious while others fled into the night, their faces twisted in horror. In the center of the barn, the ancient entity writhed, its form dissipating into a cloud of darkness as it retreated back into the shadows from whence it came. With its departure, a palpable weight lifted from the town, but the scars of the night would linger. In the days that followed, Maplewood began to heal. The police launched a thorough investigation into the cult's activities. Those involved were apprehended, and the remaining members were forced to confront the reality of their actions. The townspeople mourned the loss of their loved ones, those taken by the cult's insatiable hunger. Clara Thompson's name became a rallying cry for change, transforming grief into a determination to reclaim their community from the darkness. As for Harper, the burden of betrayal weighed heavily on his heart. His friends, once a source of support, had been lost to the shadows of fanaticism. The memories of laughter and shared moments now felt like a distant echo, replaced by a haunting silence. He found solace in the small victories support groups formed to aid families of the victims, and community meetings aimed at restoring trust and unity. Yet, amid the healing, an unsettling sensation lingered. Each night, as Harper lay in bed, he felt the shadows creep closer, a whisper of doubt gnawing at his resolve. Had they truly vanquished the entity? Or had it merely retreated, biding its time, waiting for the opportune moment to strike again? The thought haunted him. a chilling reminder of the darkness that had once enveloped Maplewood. As he stood on the edge of the woods, gazing into the depths that had become a cradle for horror, he noticed a flicker of movement. A figure cloaked in shadow lingered at the tree line, watching him with eyes that glowed faintly in the dim light. Harper's heart raced, the familiar chill creeping down his spine. The battle may have ended, but the war against the darkness was far from over. In the quiet aftermath of the confrontation, Maplewood began to reclaim its identity. The townspeople worked tirelessly to restore the sense of safety that had been so brutally shattered. Yet, as the sun dipped below the horizon, an unsettling stillness settled over the town. Detective Harper, now a figure burdened by the shadows of betrayal and horror, found himself drawn back to the woods. The whispers of the ancient entity still echoed in his mind, taunting him with the possibility that their battle was not truly won. As he walked the familiar path, the air grew thick with tension. The trees loomed overhead, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. Every rustle of leaves sent a shiver down his spine, reminding him that darkness was never far away. He paused, heart racing, as a flicker of movement caught his eye. A shadow darted between the trees, too quick to be anything but a figment of his imagination. Yet, he knew better. The entity had not been vanquished, it had merely retreated, slipping back into the veil of night. Harper shuddered as a sense of foreboding washed over him. He could feel the weight of unseen eyes watching, waiting for the right moment to emerge once more. The cult may have been dismantled, but the remnants of its influence lingered like a stain on the town's soul. The townsfolk, unaware of the true nature of the threat, began to forget the horrors of the past. But Harper could not shake the feeling that the darkness was patiently biding its time. Days turned to weeks, and as the seasons changed, so too did the atmosphere in Maplewood. A new sense of normalcy began to take root, but whispers among the townspeople hinted at strange occurrences. Pets vanished without a trace, and children spoke of shadows that followed them home. Harper listened intently, his instincts screaming that the entity had not abandoned its claim on the town. One fateful night, as he lay in bed, a chilling realization gripped him. The shadows in his room seemed to pulse with a life of their own, and he could hear the soft, insidious whispers that echoed from the depths of his nightmares. The entity was still there, lurking in the darkness, and it was only a matter of time before it would demand its due once again. With dread settling in his bones, Harper understood that the horror was not just a memory. It was a living, breathing presence, waiting to rise once more.